Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank, Stanisci of Candid Frank Live. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now, on Candid Frank Live, joining me as usual is Aaron William Freeland. Aaron, how's it going, buddy?
It's going well, Frank. How is it going with you?
I'm getting very, well. Listen, let's get into the less serious stuff first, which would be, of course, the sports part of what we do, and I guess we can start with hockey, and of course start with the Maple Leafs and goaltending woes abound.
Yeah, it seems they're getting more and more porous. Jack and Peter don't seem to be holding up their end of the bargain. Then again, we are paying them pretty much bargain basement prices, which is, what any decent goalie is apparently going for these days. What can you expect? Keefe believes that Jack is on the verge of turning the corner and getting his mojo back. He'll have another hour or two to think on that before he has to prove it. So
yeah, and
we'll
he'll have
see.
a whole game. He'll have a whole game to get it together from
Yep.
the bench. So for me, it's really what it's about. For me, is defense. It's not goaltending. The Maple Leafs have a problem on defense. It's not physical enough. And the more we go down this home stretch, the games become more and more important. And with the importance being elevated by the games, so does the intensity. And the equalizer, if you will, maybe I'm using the wrong word. The equalizer is talent can be overcome by brutality, physical play. That's a reality.
The reality is, the more you hit things, the more you slow them down, and it's a hallmark of teams that don't have the puck that they tend to do more hitting. I find it amusing that everybody seems to be that the Leafs' problem is that they don't hit enough. But the thing is, they're a possession team. They don't hit because they have the puck. They don't need to hit.
I get that, Aaron, but there is a defensive posture that's required by every team. Otherwise, why not just put 5 forwards out there? There's a reason why there's defensemen out there. They're there to defend. And they are the reason why goaltenders can look bad and or look good. Um, I like what Keith said because he was accurate. One thing you got to say about Keith is he's not afraid to say what he sees. He's not very. I don't find him to be very political in his responses, other than political in protecting certain players under certain circumstances. That's the extent of his politicism. He's pretty straightforward, and like he said, the defenders. You're getting a goaltender who's having to deal with deflections, unencumbered shots, all that kind of stuff, which speaks to being able to, as a defender, make a forward's life difficult. And when we talk about being hard to play against, there's one place you have to be hard to play against. That's in front of the opposition's net, Aaron, don't you think?
Most definitely. If you're going to be on offense and have a player in the bumper position, they've got to be hard to move. And the converse goes with that. If you're going to be playing against somebody on defense, you need to clear the front of the net. And I know that Keith had mentioned that was something that they were going to work on. Footage from practice also shows Campbell and Mrazek working on coming out from behind screens.
Yes, dummy in front.
With the dummies. Well, the dummies are basically playing exactly the way the Maple Leafs defense plays. So, they should be something they're used to.
Yeah, that is, yeah. So, and the only reason that we're talking about this is not because we're picking on a game where they did this. It has become a pattern. It's become a pattern where the players, the opposition in front of the net has a lot of liberty. So we'll see tonight how that works out with a team that they're some 15 points ahead of, with 17 games left. Tonight is a possible 4-point game, the old 4-point game, take 2 points so they don't get the 2 points and they lose a game. So that's an important game in that sense. They seem pretty safe, the Leafs do, But right now, the Bruins have made up a lot of distance. They were as far away as 10 points with Leafs having a couple of games in hand. Those 10 points, I think, now are down to what, 4 or
I
2?
think so. They've really managed to close the gap, and it's again, it's consistent play that the Bruins have put in. It's not that they're particularly flashy. It's not that their goalies are particularly good. It's that they're consistent in what they do. They're actually currently sitting 2 points back of the Leafs.
Yeah, 2 points.
So
There we go. Suzuki scores. Oh, wait a minute. The Heritage Classic venue has a personal touch with the Maple Leafs GM. Now, the Sabres are the home team.
yep.
What's this personal touch by the GM?
Well, I mean, basically what he's referring to is the fact that Kyle Dubas is actually a bit of a Ticats fan, and
Right.
he usually likes to sit in around the 55-yard line in section C6. Those of you who are familiar with the stadium will know the section that we're talking about here. Shannon, Kyle's wife, is from Hamilton. He spent a lot of time at Ivor Wynn, and he's actually really excited that the Leafs are making a return to Tim Hortons Field. So he's hoping that the outcome is obviously going to be a little bit different. I mean, with the Leafs at 35-16-4 and Buffalo at 18-31-8, the hope is that the Leafs would show a little bit better, but we'll have to see how that all turns out.
Well, they should have revenge in mind, right?
Yep.
Right. Montreal Canadiens, Suzuki scores the winner, leads Canadiens past the Oilers.
Yeah, this is one of those things where the players that are supposed to score finally start to score, and there are shades of the team that went all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals, but not necessarily. Brendan Gallagher and Cole Caulfield each had a goal and an assist, and Arturi Lekonen and Mike Hoffman also scored for the Canadiens. Now they've actually won 7 of their last 8 games, so this is definitely an upswing for them. It looks to be more of the old Martin St. Louis magic. But we'll have to see if that continues. There's only a certain love period, a certain honeymoon with these sorts of things. We'll have to see how long it continues to last.
Eichel scores, 5.2 seconds left. Vegas beats Ottawa 2-1.
Yeah, this was an absolute heartbreaker all the way through. Ottawa looked to be right up there with them, and belying their position in the standings. They were going stride for stride with the Golden Knights, and just they caught it was a bad call in the last minute of the game.
Yeah.
To put them down. It was one
Tripping
of those
call, right?
Yeah, but you kind of got to call it because the dude kind of fell over. So I mean, if it's the playoffs, that doesn't get called.
I didn't get a real close look at it. Was there some puck touched, do you think?
It was a little confusing in and around the skates, but I personally didn't think it warranted a tripping penalty. The referees obviously felt different.
And the contact was limited. That much I could tell.
Yeah, it's one of those, the stick was there and then it wasn't, and then the player was down, and then, it just one of those things. But yeah, 54 seconds left. Just a questionable call on Thomas Chabot, and then with 5.2 seconds left, Eichel pumps it home. So what are you going to do?
Who says you can't call a penalty at the end of the game?
Right?
Hey? Schmaltz gets 2 goals and 5 assists. The Coyotes beat Ottawa 8-5.
Yeah, this was one of their not as good games. And it seems like, when bottom feeders play bottom feeders, sometimes the game are barn burners, sometimes not so much. But Nick Schmaltz, had 7 points that's a franchise record for the Coyotes, as they finally got a 5-goal rally. They recovered from a 5-goal Ottawa rally to beat them 8-5. So that was a decent showing on Saturday.
Kreider 2 leads Rangers 4-1 over the Jets.
Now the Jets are it looks like they're stumbling again. They're having more issues with consistency here. But yeah, Kreider potting 2 was definitely not a good sign for their defense. Zibanejad and Barclay Goodrow also scored for the Rangers, and Panarin and Trouba both had 2 assists. So this is New York's 3rd win in a row, so they look to be picking up a little bit of steam here.
Calgary, Rocky Mountain High. What's going on there?
Yeah, this was actually kind of neat. Glad to see it. The Flames actually went in and managed to pull out a win. So that was definitely something nice to see for them. It was Gaudreau that actually scored the game winner, while Vladar made 32 saves as they beat the Avs in OT.
Possible Western conference finalists,
Oh, you know
Flames
what?
and Avs, OT.
Honest to God, if that is the Western Final, oh my goodness, it will be so amazing to watch.
Sounds like it could be. The Canucks rally with big third period to beat the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, Toronto looked to have this game in hand. I got to be honest with you.
Uh,
I was watching, and then all of a sudden,
uh,
yeah, I
uh.
watched it fall over, and then it fell over.
And it was predictable too that they were going to give up the lead. There's a
Yeah.
pattern developing. They're just unable. As much as at the top, we talked about the Leafs first. We talked about the goaltending. The goaltending here, yes, there was a questionable goal or two, but really, what we talked about earlier in this game was clearly displayed, and Keefe made it clear that people should understand that, and he's trying to cut his guys a bit of a break. And hopefully people will look at it that way, and hopefully he finds his game. That the Leafs need that. They need him to find his game, because all the teams are going to be playing. It doesn't matter where they finish, just because of their division. The Bruins are the weakest team in the Leaf division, and they're about to pass the Leafs if the Leafs don't clean up their act.
No, it's frightening the amount of parity and the how close everything is at the top in this
Totally.
particular division. And the talk is always, oh well, the Leafs are in a weak division. Well, they're seventh in the NHL,
Ah,
and the other two teams in front of them are part of that top seven.
oh.
There are it's
They're in a bone-crushing division. Last time I looked, it was the Leafs and Tampa. The Leafs were in 4th overall. Tampa was in 3rd overall. So you figure, out of 16 teams, rather than playing 3rd and 9th, right? or 10th or whatever it is, actually 13th. You're playing 3rd and 4th. I mean, it's just, yeah, people say, well, you got to beat them anyway. Yeah, but the trouble is, if you got to play all the best teams, the odds of getting through are, especially, it's not that teams don't have to do that. The Montreal Canadiens did it, but they earned playing the really good teams. They were 16th out of the playoff teams, right?
and
So, that's a different story. They earn that handicap, if you will. The Leafs haven't, and it's too bad. Robertson scores a hat trick in the second straight game. Wild lose to the Stars.
yeah. So this isn't that Robinson. This is that Robertson. This is the other Robertson.
The one that isn't a Leaf.
Yeah, the one that doesn't hasn't had a knee injury and a broken leg
Yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
just look at his shoulder and all that
That's
sort of
because you're
fun stuff.
wishing it was the other Robertson that had the hat trick.
Hey, you know what though? Honestly, it's the second hat trick for the second consecutive game. That is quite an accomplishment, no matter how you look at it. It's their fourth
Awesome.
win in a row, and they beat the Minnesota Wild. Again, it's not looking bad. Ottinger made 32-7 saves. Pavelski and Ben each had a goal and an assist, and Klingberg, who was a Maple Leaf trade target for a hot second there, had 2 assists. So
Wow. Hey, so the Toronto Six, they're being sold.
yeah, this is actually really exciting news. So the Premier Hockey Federation has announced that the Toronto Six have been sold to a BIPOC Canadian group of owners. They include Angela James, Bernice Carnegie, Ted Nolan, and Anthony Stewart, which is
Well,
really awesome.
well. Maybe they're paying him a lot of money at Hockey Night in Canada there, eh?
I'm not
Hey,
sure.
hey.
It's
Is he getting? I wonder if he's getting Don Cherry money.
you never know. I mean,
I don't
now the
think
full
so.
list of participants
I
hasn't been
don't think
released
so.
yet.
I don't know if anybody gets Don Cherry money anymore. The Rock, they win 12-9, beat the Riptide.
So this was a good revenge win for them. Last weekend they
Absolutely.
came off a 1-goal loss. This year they were down 1-0 at the end of the first quarter, but up 5-2 at the half before stretching that lead out to 12-6. A little bit of a defensive let up near the end there, but lacrosse is a game of runs, but they didn't get any closer than that. So good to see the Rock pull a win out at home with 7,920 fans in the stands. So it's a good crowd there.
There will be no balls, only strike in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, they are this close to coming to an agreement.
That close, huh?
Oh, yeah, it's been one of those you could have resolved this 9 months ago, sort of things. But it's
The PA's got in Major League Baseball. They put together a $1 million fund. What's up with that, Aaron?
Well, the whole idea behind that is they're creating them to help team employees who are impacted by the lockout. Now, it's going to be administered by the MLBPA and the AFL-CIO. They're going to basically be allocating the funds into the hardest hit communities that they find. What they're looking at are concession crews, electricians, ushers, security and transportation personnel, janitors, television and radio broadcasting crew, and groundskeepings. Now, funding from this is going to come from the war chest that the union's been building up since the last time they had an issue with the collective bargaining agreement. Shortly on the heels of that, not to be outdone, Major League Baseball said, hey, we're going to throw in money too. Don't forget about us. We're not such bad guys. So
they're not. Farmer in Western Canada and BC in particular caught in a battle with ICBC. What's up with that, Aaron?
So until recently, you didn't actually have to have a license. But in March 2021, BC announced a new program that requires commercial drivers. So that includes those who drive farming equipment. They have to get a Class 1 driver's license. Now, this was spurred on by the Humboldt crash with the Broncos back in 2018.
Yep.
So part of that is they have to join what's called MELT, which is mandatory entry-level training, which is a 140-hour course. Now, one of this particular tractor driver has been doing it for a while. He got his Class 1 learner's license in September of 2021 and was given 2 days notice for a test that he could take in Cranbrook, BC, which was
Holy crap.
over 700 kilometers away.
Yeah, not only that, having to go through the course and everything, right?
Yeah, and so they said, well, you can get a test closer to home on November 17th, and ICBC is like, we don't know what he's talking about. Nobody ever told us. So
wow.
It's there's a lot of people who miss getting their Class 1 license because of pandemic related backlogs. This is negatively impacting his business. So
more bus issues. This one, of course, in Alberta, budget increase, not enough.
Yeah, no, it's getting more and more expensive to get your kids to school these days. Now, in particular, this article is looking at the family of John Ballard and his family. They live about 10 minutes away from the northern Alberta hamlet of Ardmore, where his daughter attends school. His 2 sons go to town in Bonnyville. 2 weeks ago, that bus route was temporarily canceled due to a lack of drivers, and they've been unable to get their kids to school with other concerns. So.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges that schools when they come back have is bringing in bus drivers, especially if there's mandatory. Well, I don't want to. Let's not go down that rabbit hole right now. So help arrives in flooded New South Wales town.
So this has been on the way for a while now. Last week, various provinces in Australia actually suffered flooding. Karaki is the town in particular here. It's about 30 kilometers south of Lismore. March 4th and 5th, they started to get a record amount of water, and then 6th, the levee broke. So they're saying 1,200 residents have been living in their cars or at evacuation centers established at Karaki's highest point, but they're running out of drinking water. So New South Wales Premier Dominic Perrottet said 2,000 homes have been deemed uninhabitable after the floods had devastated them. They're working on getting them into proper housing.
Batman Returns 30 years later. This is the Michael Keaton, Tim Burton version. The one that was basically Batman was an afterthought. The Joker is what matters.
This is what actually started the great Batman tradition of focusing more on the bad guys,
right?
Their motivations than the good guys. So you're looking at Max Schreck, Catwoman, the Penguin, all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, the Joker.
A lot of people didn't like it. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think it was
and there was the Joker movie that didn't include Batman.
Yeah, which people were thoroughly confused by. So yep.
Mask wearing is a personal choice, Aaron. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, as it currently stands, as they're getting rid of everything, PFAC or PHAC in Canada is just saying, hey, look, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. That's entirely up to you. Don't let other people tell you what or what not to do. Even if there are no mask mandates, that's still your choice. So I think
Quebec is ending them, right?
Yep, they're coming to an end very shortly. They're also a little bit behind Ontario when it comes to ending the vaccine passports as well. The vaccine and mask requirements aren't going to end until about mid-March to early April.
The UN is discussing and having a hearing on genocide in the Ukraine by the Russians.
So this was, we mentioned this last week, 7th and 8th, there was to be a hearing at The Hague concerning the actions that Russia was taking. However, Russia is floating the ICJ, that's the International Court of Justice, and decided not to appear. They just said, screw you guys, we're not going to be there because we don't think we're doing anything wrong. But
in England, there's a Tory MP who basically is discussing all this stuff, all this economic, I guess, arm twisting by the rest of the world on Russia could be a circular firing squad for the rest of the world.
Well, and the issue is, unfortunately, this demonstrates how dependent the United Kingdom is on Russian goods and on Russian commodities like oil. The fact that they can be so severely impacted by this it also provides an answer as to why they haven't done anything with regards to a lot of the Russian oligarchs that are currently sheltering in the UK and have assets in the UK. So
now can okay. I want to get this in. Now, Russia has offered 4 conditions for ending this war. My first question is, can we trust Russia to follow through on an agreement? They haven't thus far in this war.
There have been 3 attempts so far to provide a safe corridor for evacuees, refugees, and humanitarian aid. I haven't heard anything so far about the 3rd attempt today, but the previous 2 were interrupted by the Russians shelling and strafing that corridor. So, no, I really don't believe that Putin can be trusted to actually live up to his word. Notice, I don't necessarily believe it's his commanders that are at fault here, but it's the fact that he is so willing to float this that is more of an issue.
So his conditions are ceasing military action. Well, there wasn't any military action until he entered the country.
Mm-hmm.
He wants guarantees by a change in the constitution to enshrine neutrality. And that enshrinement, I guess, means they don't join Europe and they don't join, needless to say, NATO, which would be a step further.
Right. They also want to acknowledge Crimea as a Russian territory,
Right.
which again flies in the face of everything that they fought for so far. And also, they want to recognize the separatist republics of Donetsk and Lugansk as independent territories. Now, these were two of the provinces that had said that they were going to go independent from Ukraine, which sparked all this in the first place. The fact that Donetsk and Lugansk wanted to step away from Ukraine was what gave Putin the excuse to send his troops in the first place as part of a military exercise to maintain security for them.
And by the way, just for the sake of clarity, both those provinces weren't completely controlled. They weren't completely independent. The
No,
actual, when you look at the map, right? It's only the furthest parts of it that were basically controlled by Russian allies, if I can use that term. And there's no question that they were Russian allies because that is where they built their attack from. And of course, Belarus.
correct.
All right, we only got a minute or 2 left. Okay, I'm starting to get this terrible feeling, and I'm starting to learn something. And Aaron, just real quick, we talk in Canada and in the U.S., in North America, even in Europe and everywhere else in the world, except for some countries where diversity is looked at as a strength. In Erdogan, in Hungary, and then we have, of course, Putin, and then we have all these other states, countries, by that I mean, that want to maintain the ethnic purity of their communities. Is it looking like that's what is going on here, where we're at a crossroad, where we're having people who don't want integration, who don't want diversity, and we're seeing it happen? And I don't want to alarm anybody, but we're definitely seeing it in the US. And I got news for you folks. It's happening here in Canada as well. Are we at a point historically where this desire to not allow people who are different to be a part of where we are and who we are?
Now, are you referring to issues like immigration? Or are we talking
Well,
about
all of
mixed
it.
marriages? Or are we talking
I'm
to
talking, we only have a minute, but you can talk about it in any way you want. Like, to you, when I say to you diversity and acceptance of diversity, I'm talking about us. You know, my parents came from Italy. My kids have Italian roots plus old English roots. You have Chinese and Scottish roots. There's those people that we have in North America, and that's happening in Europe more and more, where we're having that literal integration into an individual. You understand now what I'm saying? And it's
I think so.
almost as though people are rejecting that, where we have to have racial purity. It's starting to seem like that to me. I'm starting to see that that might be the underlying problem that we have in the world today.
I mean, it's very likely that this wholesale rejection of integration, as you put it, or race mixing, is coming more to the fore, especially with the spread of the alt right and through online radicalization. I mean, it's possible to go from "Hey, I'm wondering about this" to full blown alt right racial
Well,
hegemony and whatnot over in about 2 hours on TikTok if you just click on the right videos. The ability to sway individuals' opinion one way or the other has been made worse by the advent of social media as opposed to better. As opposed to unifying the world, social media has been a way to sort of separate it even more. And that to me is more concerning.
well, and you know, nothing speaks to that more than the Confederate flag or the swastika. So when we see those things, that's what we're talking about, is basically no social integration, please. Thank you very much. Not what I'm saying, it's what I'm observing. But anyway, that's something we can keep chewing on. Whenever we come into these things, Aaron, listen, thanks, buddy.
I
Great show.
appreciate it, Frank.
My pleasure being a part of it. For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, Aaron Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news and entertainment and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao for now.